What's up, Rap Shop Talk? So today we got Brian Alexander with Ready Aim Climb, and he's essentially a business consultant
Yep.
for multiple trades and industries. And we happen to be at an event together, and I feel that a lot of the value he has to offer would be good for our industry because we need help in the business sector. And so, you know, why don't you open up and tell us a little about yourself, how you got into the coaching world, and then we kind of deep dive, how, what are some of the big pitfalls of business for people?
Sure, sure. So I've been doing business coaching for 10 years now. Coached a ton of different people, owned businesses myself. I got my start back in the gym world. So CrossFit gyms,
Okay.
little micro gyms, right? And ended up doing really well in there and opening a couple. And then started doing business coaching for a company. It's kind of like an operating system, but it was very specific for gyms and did coaching, probably coached, a couple hundred clients on systems, processes, SOPs, dialing all of that stuff in, and did really well with that as well. But we kept running into another problem. Even if we had the systems dialed in, all the processes done, like the problem that we kept running into was the people. And we found out like it doesn't matter how good your systems are if you don't have the right people executing those systems, you're always going to run into problems. And it's, I call it the whack-a-mole of people problems. You fix one thing and all of a sudden, it comes back up in 3 or 4 months. So at that point, I got into kind of like, looked in the mirror and said, well, what am I missing? Because not only was it happening in my business, but it was happening in hundreds of our clients' businesses. So I started looking into like, well, what is that missing link, right? And ended up being like the behavioral assessments.
Mm.
So, making sure that you have the right person in the right seat and then doing the right things, right? That's the big, formula for success. And that's kind of the genesis of how I got into business coaching. Then I kind of, grew out of the gym space a little bit. Not to say I got bored, but I had seen every problem over the course of like 5 or 6 years, and I was ready for a little bigger pond, I guess, to go solve problems in.
Yeah.
So I started working with larger companies, and just been a wild journey because especially with people problems, it doesn't matter how big the company is. You could have one employee or 10,000. Like they're all the same problems. So I began to solve problems for some larger companies and diving deeper into that space, and been doing that ever since.
What's a curious question? So, would you say that the problems for the bigger companies are still essentially like kind of alluded to it, but it's still essentially the same problem, just expanded almost like or compounded? Because I feel like the people issue never actually goes away.
Yeah.
Like even like because I mean managing people in itself is like almost like herding cats.
Right.
And people will always throw the curveball in on you no matter how perfect you think you have something dialed in. But that doesn't mean that we can't leverage a system or some form of approach to make it better. But I was just curious, like as you grow, at what point, I guess, let me refine the question. As you grow, at what point, how many employees is it that you see that it becomes it's still a problem, but it starts to get a little easier? Yeah.
There's never a point where you don't have some people problems. Like people are the most complex things in the world, right? So even if you figure out some of the stuff that we do on the PI side, they could have a loss in the family, or they like they could move just suddenly on you, right? So people problems are always going to be there, but they become different, right? So a lot of the times as you grow, you end up having like leadership problems or lack of leadership problems, which cascades down to people problems on the ground level, where engagement drops, lack of clarity. A lot of people that go into management just go into management more for the pay increase, and maybe the less of the grind of the day to day, right? So like I'm just gonna manage some people, but they go into that without any skills around managing people. So that's the biggest gap that we see as companies begin to grow. It's the founder putting the right people in the right seats, but then you also have to hire somebody to manage them eventually and build out your leadership team.
Mm.
And choosing those people is critical, that you choose them properly, but you also develop those leaders and continue to develop them. Otherwise, it's just going to end up being, you're going to go right back to the genesis of the problem.
How would you coach business owners with how to delegate when they don't know how to let go of what they think they're best at and can't let go of the reins on the delegation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the big challenge I come up with is write everything that you do on a daily basis, and then I tell them like what's if you can only keep 20% and that 20% has to be something only you could do, like your highest and best use. Let's chop that off and let's look at that 80%.
Mm.
Then let's use some data to make sure that we're delegating those tasks and projects to the right person. I think sometimes we don't delegate, or we are cautious of it
Mhm.
because we're not sure that that person is going to be able to get the job done in the way
Well, the
as well as we could. Um,
They
but
have to do
as
a lot with wrap shop owners.
yeah,
They have a hard time letting go of the reins of install everything, that anything they're doing because they feel like they do it the best and nobody's going to be able to fulfill.
yeah, even if you're good at something, if you're only focusing 20% of your time and energy and bandwidth on that, somebody else's 80% is going to be way better than your 20%. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you just got to change your perspective on their 80% is going to be better than the 20% that you're dedicating to this because you're working on so many other things. And as a business owner, like your number one job should be growing the business and working on big picture strategy and kind of like
Better to have somebody do 80% of what you can do than you doing 100% of everything.
100% of everything, but the reality is you're not doing 100% of everything well because you're spread so thin.
Yeah.
So what's a real percentage of like how well you're doing those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's just this perspective shift. But it's as you all know, it's you go through that, right? You hang on to things a little too long. But I think once you know you're delegating to the right person, that takes a lot of the hesitation away.
I think Dan's visual today from your talk actually was really good. That maybe some people view the 20% a little wrong. It's meaning like the 20%, it's like, let's change the lens a little bit. It's actually potentially that while they're actually working on it,
Yeah,
they're actually really good at it. But the problem is they can't touch it
can't
for
get to it.
8 to 10, 12 hours later. And
Yeah.
now it's 9 o'clock at night. And the customer has already chosen somebody else, or they're pissed off that they didn't get a response.
Yeah.
And that's actually the problem, is that it wasn't effectively handled
Sure.
in a timely manner because you were waiting for perfection much later because you were busy doing
All the other
Yeah.
things. All the other things. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I liked your visual, like that kind of clicked with me pretty good, of like you everything becomes like a last minute mode essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a really great analogy. So ready, aim, climb. I mean, clearly that's a system or a process. If a new business owner, like like if we were like a 3-man team, let's just say that's a very common size in our industry. I'd say 3 to 5 people. How would somebody go to start implementing, essentially like the core principles of what you're training?
Yeah. I mean, whether it's a 3-person team or, 1,000-person company, like I think every business owner has to know where they're headed. So like, what's the purpose? Why do we exist? Does every team member on the team understand that? At the infant stages, it might not be as grand, but big believers on setting a big vision, right? The big, hairy, audacious goal and making sure everybody's aligned with it and wants to make that climb with you, making sure you have the right people that want to make the climb with you, also that they're capable and competent. So I think it starts with like purpose, right? But then making sure that you have the right people on the bus with you for the climb, I think is number 2. Getting clear on roles, getting clear on, what KPIs and what like winning the week looks like for every role, and making sure everybody in that seat understands what that looks like, and then holding them accountable to it, I think is really important. Um, and then just, having a clear playbook for how to do the job, simplifying it. Like we like SOPs, but a lot of times SOPs are really long and very detailed and nobody reads them. Like, they're there and we feel good about it as business owners. Like, I got an SOP for everything. But if your team members aren't functionally using them, then it's kind of a moot point. So we look at playbooks and we say, like, what is, if a brain surgeon can have a playbook, to do their job, if a
Mhm.
pilot can have a checklist to do their job, if a pilot can have a checklist to do their job, every function should have a checklist. We would call it a playbook, right? What's the 20% that will accomplish 80% of the task or the
Mhm.
role or the function. So playbooks are big. SOPs are good at first again, but a lot of people just don't follow or read them in depth. Um, and then it just comes down to what I talked about a little earlier: KPIs, scorecards, what winning the week looks like, just measuring performance. And then, of course, that all leads to profit. But it's principle based, so it's not really prescriptive. If you get those 5 things right and focus on those 5 principles, you'll do well, whether you're a small company or a large company. I kind of argue if you get it set up in early, then you're going to grow in a good fashion and not have to go back and fix a whole lot of things.
That's painful.
Yeah,
It sucks having a really busy shop and going backwards.
yeah,
It's not fun.
Yeah, and I like that idea of checklist versus just the how to, because then you have something to measure. Like, of I'm doing this. I'm not just reading about what to do. This is what I have to do, and make sure that gets completed versus
yeah,
the full diagram of okay, take the door handle off and then clean underneath the rubber gasket. Which, I mean, that could be a kind of a to-do list too, um, but a checklist of making sure just the key things get done,
yeah,
and not how everything gets done from start to finish.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It could probably be a little more digestible for some people, like in our own business. Like I've been working on the lens of like helping deal with processes by like just focus on the process. Don't worry about the system.
Sure.
Because the system is the connecting of all the processes,
Right.
and then and or adding a software on top to give you leverage for it. But process in itself is actually very, very, very small.
Right.
Very, very small task.
Yeah.
And so I take it that you've read the Checklist Manifesto then.
I haven't,
Yeah.
but it's such a big part of our Pinnacle operating system.
I'm
Kind of.
surprised you haven't read that book because it's fantastic. It's a doctor who was trying to figure out in the 80s why there was such high infection or failure rates in the medical industry.
Okay.
And what he became fascinated with was aviation.
Okay.
And so essentially he started studying aviation. Why is it that they could do so good? Why are their success rates so high? Like their failure rates
Right. Right.
very low.
Minimal.
Why is it when this guy crashed, he was able to crashed into the river, he was able to do his checklist like 7 times over. There was absolutely zero things that he could have done outside of what exactly occurred.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Like
That's
which is pretty good.
very similar. Yeah. Yeah.
So aviation, like, their job is very, 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 very technical. Probably one of the more technical things. Same with hospitals, but they gave power to the nurses for the checklist,
Right.
and that reduced infection rate rather than the doctor having all power.
Sure.
So that's kind of the point of the book was, simple checklist.
Yeah. Every aspect of the business, we should always just aim to simplify it, and not overcomplicate it. Everything just becomes complicated and bloated over time. Even with the playbooks, we want to frequently review them too, with the people executing them, to make sure that we can like look at them, we can review them, we can make changes, make them more efficient, we can iterate on them. And it's this living document that it's going to improve over time. That's the goal.
So the playbook's broken up into like chapters of like positions.
Yeah, yeah. So every role or function will have its own specific playbook, and then there will be KPIs tied to the execution of it, right? The performance of it. But imagine for example, the pilot scenario. If they were going down and they had either a checklist or a 30-page manual, like what do you think they're gonna go for, right? Like it's just how do you simplify it to the essence of like what needs to happen, because that's how people are gonna perform well.
What are the most important, like if I had a 3 to 5 man team, which one would you start with?
Which play?
Which play would you run first that you feel, well, let's just say rap industry, that's what this is for, right?
Yeah,
So we have administration, for typically, and most people aren't doing outbound sales. It's just order takers.
Okay.
So more of like an admin slash account manager, customer service
Yeah.
person that keeps things kind of logistically moving and keeps the customer updated and also closes sales. Then you have a production component where there's usually a designer who is either the designer and the producer, or it's split where it's the design team and production team.
Yeah.
Then you have install team. So it's pretty straightforward business. If that was the business, which playbook would you run first? And typically the owner's the installer.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd go with inbound, whatever that process looks leading up to the close of the sale. First, that whole process. Usually how we do it too is we'll just take sticky notes, a whole bunch of different color sticky notes, and we'll just start from start from scratch. Like, okay, what's the first step? Somebody calls and, and then you'll go sticky note by sticky note by sticky note, but it'll be, the person in charge of that function and the owner together. And by the end of it, you're going to see like where there's too much, where you can cut out, where you can make it more efficient, where you might be missing steps. By the end of it, that you've captured your entire playbook. And now with ChatGPT these days, you can literally just take a picture, say, hey, I want to make a Pinnacle playbook. The ChatGPT knows like all the frameworks for this, function. What are the key things I need? It's going to say, what's the purpose of this, the date, when it's due, who owns it. So who owns updating it, right? So we want to be able to update it. So it's going to give you all the key areas that we want to focus on, and it'll spit you out that playbook.
Nice.
So if you can just do that for every single thing that you do that has a process to it, you'll be done probably in 6 plays maybe. Can imagine there's that to begin with, right? You'll start with the critical plays. Then little by little,
That makes sense. You start at inbound. You basically start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Of like, so the very first thing that happens is the sale comes in or the lead comes in.
Right.
That's inbound. Somebody as well start there and get the playbook going for that.
Yeah.
To the admin, to project management, production, and install.
Yeah. If the owner is doing the install anyway, there's a lot of tribal knowledge up there that you're going to have to extract it soon anyway, eventually. But I think I'd start with the people that
it's fun.
are not the owner.
We hire installers first. That's why I asked
Do you?
how to function is we all hire installers for certain reasons.
So if you do hire an installer first, then I would get that tribal knowledge.
Argument right now though that the admin's actually a better plug.
Okay.
Because like one of the things that Dan and I have been working on is like identifying what is the perfect shop for you to scale to $1 million the fastest based on your skill capacity.
Got it.
Therefore, the install should be probably the last hire.
That made it most difficult to train.
Yeah.
The admin would be the easiest to bring on because it can be really anybody
Right.
to perform simple order taking, phone calls,
Yeah.
simple stuff, and update customers with where they're at,
Yeah.
wanting that information, and it is like Brent said, the fastest way to get to $1 million.
Yeah.
The admin is such a key role. Like when I hired an admin, in a year we literally doubled our revenue, but it's not a producing role,
Right.
and that changed my perspective, and I think Brent's too, of why that would be. Because it's such a easy task, but it takes up so much time for the business owner.
Right.
To answer phone calls, take the orders, collect logos, put them together, get the design, get it to the design before anybody can then do anything else.
Yeah.
It's just such an easy thing. That could be a VA.
You're right. It's such a low dollar.
Yeah.
It's a low ticket. For the impact.
But I think it's just because we, being the installer, we want to work on the business faster.
Yeah.
And
that person to keep an eye. I think the really the biggest key for wrap shops and other businesses that are similar is the person to keep their eye on the schedule, as in, and that would, in my opinion, would be admin or project manager.
Sure.
That always knows where people are at and where they could fit in.
Yeah.
So there's never a gap of when a vehicle is going to be showing up.
right, installer's like this. He's like, yeah, I think Tuesday's good.
Yeah.
That was me. People are like, can you get it done with it? Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like, I was good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then fine tuning to, okay, we have 6 hours blocked on Tuesday. Well, now we can fit in a 2-hour decal job. We have you scheduled Thursday. Maybe let's move that to Tuesday. And
Yeah.
then it can be a little bit dynamic. But if somebody's not looking at it, then it's easy to be like, oh, we only have 6 hours of stuff scheduled today,
Yeah.
and tomorrow we're full. And you lose those hours because if somebody's not actively looking at it, and you're just kind of like throwing people in at random. And that's why I think project manager and admin is super important.
I like that. Yeah.
First hire.
First side.
It goes back to like, you could do it, but you're only giving 20% to that function. You're probably missing a whole bunch of important things and taking on too much and all of that. So that's a cheap hire. It's a good hire. It's a good playbook to create first. It sounds like you guys are onto something there.
Well, it's funny because mine was backwards. Like, not only was it like the non-producing role, but like I said, I was thinking I was working on the business. So I hired the installer, I had production, all the stuff. Now I'm in the admin role. And I hated my job.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be an admin in the first place.
Right.
But I filled in all the gaps
You worked yourself out of that.
that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And then worked myself into a job I hated.
Right. And it was probably like one of the few things that you could do, better than the average. So now you're doing the admin role and you're not even good at that. You
I'm
don't
not
like to
good
do
at
it.
it.
You're not good at it. You don't
I
like to
miss
do it.
everything.
Yeah.
I have ADD.
Yeah.
Like as
Worst
far-
part, you'll never hire
like
yourself.
I'm gonna write a piece of paper and put it in my pocket, and then he goes to the wash.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Right.
So
That is funny.
I'm on a computer screen now, so looking at Facebook,
Yeah.
just put me in front of a car instead, right? And that's
Right.
what I should have been doing the
Yeah.
whole time. But yeah, so as a company grows, essentially, what is like? Let's talk about hiring.
Yeah.
That's literally so. We've already talked. We've identified in our wrap industry really admin and designer, plus owner installer. It's probably like the 3 people at first. Because a lot of graphic designers are also the print producer at first, but hiring. So you use some kind of system of sorts to create better outputs to ensure that they're the right mental style, characteristic traits, essentially, right?
Yep.
So
So
let's go into that.
kind of like we call them behavioral motivating drives. I use predictive index. It's been around since 1955. So there's 800 assessments if you Google assessments out there, but there's only like a small handful that are scientifically validated to be used specifically for hiring and selection. So what this does, it doesn't tell you can somebody do the job. It tells you will they do it and will they do it well over a long period of time. So like we all can do, like you can be an admin. We can all do anything and be anything, especially if it's like somebody that like wants to come into your company and they buy into you as the founder and the owner, and they'll run through walls for you. It doesn't mean that they're the right person for their role. They could be a good culture fit, but they might not be aligned from a behavioral perspective. So imagine like you need to hire a point guard, but you hire a center instead, and then you try to train them to be a point guard. They're never going to be a great point guard. Like if you need a point guard, let's go hire point guards and train them to be the best point guards they can be.
Yeah.
Um,
Like if you're hiring an admin, you probably want to hire somebody that has high organization skills,
yeah.
can keep track of everything that's needed.
Yeah. So we get crystal clear on it by using the behavioral assessment. We look at, we would call them stakeholders, but really it's the owner and anybody else who has like a good perspective on what the job needs. And then we get those 2 inputs or 3 inputs. We kind of talk through them, and then we look at the differences and we'll reconcile those and say, well, what do we really need for this role? Once we talk through it, we lock in the job target, and then you can kind of send out as many assessments as you want to as many candidates as you want to make sure that you're going to hire the right person for the role, regardless of what the resume says, regardless of how well they interview. A lot of times people say all the right things and you're like, man, this person's going to be a rock star. And then, all of a sudden, like 20 days in, you're like, I don't know. And then you kind of like, I'll give them some time.
Yeah.
60 days in, you're like, this is not really working out, but you're busy. And then 90 days in, you're like, what in the world just happened? Like, that's not the guy I hired. Like, the person who shows up for the interview isn't always the person that shows up on like day 91, we call it, right?
Yeah, that happened with my second operations person I hired after
Yeah,
Chris left. I hired this person, and honestly, within the first week, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
yeah,
And they even they stuck around for about a month before I was like, it's not working. Sorry.
yeah. And that's
Doesn't they agree with you?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, I agree. I was like- She's like, okay. Her response from when I said that was a relief. Was like, okay,
right.
like I agree. I agree with this stuff. Not great.
Yeah,
It was personality. It was her skill set and
everything. Yeah,
everything, which it seems so different in the interview. It was mind boggling that it was so bad because they sold it on being really great and being really expensive for for what they had.
right.
But actually, and that's a question. What or at least a question I had. What are big hiring mistakes you see businesses make?
I think it's not getting like not slowing down enough to get clear on what you actually need. Not having a good onboarding playbook, like a 30, 60, 90 day plan clearly mapped out, milestones, like
Playbook.
hiring. Yeah. For what, for you and the hire. So they know exactly what to expect for those 90 days. So you can execute on a good onboarding kind of plan as well. That's a big missing. And I'm talking about like large companies, small companies, people miss this. And it's a big game changer if you can get it right. But it takes time going into it and say, well, what is the ideal 90 days look like for a new hire for this role, right?
Yeah.
And again, you kind of like reverse engineer it and it's like, let's develop the ideal onboarding plan. What are the steps? What are the milestones? By day 60, what should you know? So it's crystal clear for you and them that you can actually kind of measure their progress against, right?
So you mean walking around and say, watching me do this does not work?
No, the ride, yeah, I work with a lot of blue collar, companies, the old ride along thing. It works to a degree, right? But it's not the best way to do it, right? So we looked like, how do we just create the best system, to set yourself up? And really it's all about setting them up for success. Because at the end of the day, it's like, look in the mirror and, we're usually the problem at the end of the day. We can blame them, but most of the problems end up being things that we didn't do well for them. And we've all probably ruined good hires by not having our ducks in a row, right? Not having clear measurements and KPIs around what success looks like, not having a clear onboarding plan, not having clear playbooks, and who knows how many good people we've lost because of that, right?
Or a job description.
Yeah.
Come in and from the job application or job posting you have out, if you don't have it clear, like exactly what you want, and then they come in and you're giving them all these different tasks. They're like,
Well, yeah, that's
about the job.
that's such a good point. Yeah, we do have a job description, but when we tend to like just add all these ancillary things on that they're also responsible for, right? We're big on like results ownership charts. Like what are the outcomes and results that you're responsible for your function? Could be 3 to 5 things, but you'll know that if these things happen, you're doing a great job. Instead of like a title or a role, like what results do you own? What results do you own? And it gets down to the nitty gritty of like, I don't care about titles. I care about like the end goal. What is the result?
Well, then it's crystal clear what the outputs are.
And it's also very clear on when to coach, but also when to cut, right? That's a lot of business owners hang on to people for too long. You cut after less than a month, which is great. A lot of times we have big hearts, it's kind of funny. It's really hard to fire people. I joke around. I'm like, we got to get really good at hiring people, or we got to get really good at firing people. Some business owners get really good at firing people, and that's their process. But they forget re-recruiting, re-interviewing, re-onboarding. That's like really expensive, right? So they're like, oh, I'm doing a great job because I'm firing people right when I know they're not going to be a good fit. But there's a lot of lost money just by not getting it right in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
This whole first part of this year, when I went through my operations fiasco, I mean, we wasted good 4 months of being able to focus on revenue and sales, everything. Now I'm focused on just replacing this person, where I'm jumping in to do some of the admin operations and then fitting the wrong person into that spot, and they didn't work out, and then them leaving, and bringing back that right person. But
Yeah.
it's very expensive.
Yep.
First part of the year, lost revenue, lost sales, lost income to paying somebody who just wasn't doing the job very well. And,
Yeah.
and we went, and when I got the right person in the job role, we the bad months with the wrong person and me jumping in were 40% lower in revenue than when we had the right person in there. Just
Yeah.
have having the right person.
That's right.
So it's not just the cost of the time to train, but like all the
Lost production.
sales, lost production.
Yeah.
There's so much.
It's like this vacuum is formed and everybody has to go fill it, but they've left their post to go fill it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to even actually dig into the actual number, but I would guess we probably lost over 100K in revenue in
Yeah.
the couple months that we didn't have the right person.
Yeah, the total, like, entry level employee probably costs you right around like 50 grand. Mid level employee costs you about 150 to 200, and then like leadership positions could cost you around 300 to 400 once you get to that point. All in on what turnover cost actually cost you, and you add all of that up. It's a lot.
Well, that is a lot.
So measure twice, cut
Yeah.
once. Slow down.
So, and that's another question is how, and I guess this is kind of variable, depends on the business, but how soon do you think you should make, like, as you're growing, how quickly or how should you be making hires? Like, okay, I just hired admin, they're dialed in. Where should I hire the next role?
Yeah,
How long? Can I hire next month?
that's a big variable.
Yeah.
Let your P&L guide you a little bit. But also, like, if you can forecast out based on the last, trailing 3 to 6 versus, the next 6 months, like, what do you need right now? Can you afford? You want to run as lean as possible for as long as you can. But if it becomes a bottleneck, then definitely go for the higher, right? But, forecast it a couple months before that bottleneck happens, if you could.
Yeah.
But it's different. Every business is different. Every stage of business is
I
different.
want to be on.
Well, I think that's the recipe that we're trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's just say marketing. Marketing, we've heard Eddie Malouf say stuff like, for every one sales guy, I know I needed this, this, and this, and this. Like, in that order.
Yeah.
And then that's a pod, and that pod can do
Right.
on the avenue.
Yeah.
Right. And in our industry, we haven't quite identified what does that look like. So it's like, okay, what can one sales guy like? So one, nobody does outbound sales, right? So there's no hunting jobs. There's a couple shops that do, but mostly they're inbound only. But what does a singular sales rep generate in revenue? Like, I feel that a good sales rep should generate you minimum $1 million revenue. It's 100K income. That's what I want him to make, is 6 figures. So that means that he would generate you $1 million in revenue. Well, what is the fulfillment around the $1 million in revenue then?
Right.
How many? So what is it? Brad Volpone thinks or feels based on his numbers that one account manager can handle 250,000 in work in progress of active work in the pipeline.
Okay.
So now you have a salesperson feeding the account rep. Like, this is just slowly like figuring out the puzzle.
Yeah.
That person's getting fed 250K work in progress. Well, what is the flow then of, like, that's the hard part, is the flow of the inbound sales from the sales guy. But then how many guys does it take to fulfill 250K of work in progress as far as print guys? What's their capacity, installers? Like, I don't know that there's an actual recipe for that yet, or industry.
Yeah. It's so it's just not created yet. It's a new enough industry, and I don't want to say that dumb enough people that are in it that haven't gone through other businesses or other experiences. Like, that's why I brought Chris on.
Yeah.
Because he's from an industry where there's so much data, and he's tasked with collecting so much data, where most people in wrap shops, they're not coming from other industries. They just happen to be in that industry.
And we're only drawing from what we have.
Right.
And I'm not saying all wrap shop owners are done. That's not what I mean. I just mean,
Yeah.
we have no experience in anything else.
Not a lot of exposure.
Primarily, no exposure to anything else. Like, and that was one of my biggest hurdles was all I knew about wraps was just wrap it. And then now I'm a business owner with employees. How do I manage these employees? I don't know. I got to figure it out while I go.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about of the that stuff, okay, how many, what Brad's figuring out with, okay, a salesperson should be able to do this, and then a project manager can handle this. That's stuff nobody really has focused on
Nobody.
at all.
Or the ones who have are the couple of months. We do have a couple of monsters in the game that are not on social media. They are not talking. They're quiet. Nobody knows they exist. And they are crushing it.
They figured it out.
And they're being as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
Because they get to keep as much market share as possible during that time. I think it's going to end. I think it's going to be common knowledge in the next 2-3 years for us. But it's been an interesting thing. We were talking about hiring fast. I had a guy on my team. So it was my first hire. Got lucky. Kid was in the sign industry since he was 16 years old. Did not have any motivation to be his own business owner.
Yep.
He was capable of pulling permits for signs. He pulled the most permits of anybody in the county. So crazy experience. And it cost me I think $30K a year, something like that. Right?
Okay.
And it just wasn't highly motivated in certain instances, but was highly talented.
Yep.
Now, at the time, meaning I was going from 1 employee to 2, and that was my first guy, and he was a killer.
Okay.
For me, because I was
Yep.
1 to 2 people, right? And now this guy can sandblast signs. He can hand paint signs because he worked for a hand painted guy back in the day. Then he worked for Fast Signs, worked in the corporate thing, had kind of a small book of business because it's a small town, right? All these things. I had him on my team for 7 years. And I remember he got me very far, but it came to a certain point once I hit that maybe 500, 600K range. So we hit 500K with 3 guys, me, him, and Davey. And then it was about 750. When we got to the 750s, trying to push to the first million, it was like pulling my hair out.
Yeah.
He didn't fit in. He didn't like the people on the team. He didn't respect culture. He didn't he was the same guy 6 years later.
Yeah. He didn't
that he was on day 1.
Yeah.
And he was getting slowly left behind.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, he's going to figure it out. I believe in this guy. I literally kept this guy. I probably complained about this guy for, no shit, I think I coached under John Duvid for 2.5 years. And I kept saying, James this, James this, James this. And my mentor I'd complain to my mentor. He'd go listen, either you complain about him and deal with it.
Yep.
Meaning you just shut up and you keep him on the team, or deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? Terminate him and move on because I'm tired of hearing him complain about it.
Yeah.
And what are some tips or pointers or indicators for people to also look out and or remember that you're going to go through waves of growth, and the people that you attract and hire for the first phase to a certain point are going to break. Just like your systems are going to break, your people are also going to break. And then you're going to grow, and somebody gets left behind, and they are going to need to be terminated and or replaced, almost recycled in a way.
Yes.
I don't know a good way to put it, but basically what got you here will get you there. And man, it was a hard lesson for me because I loved my people. I'm this guy got me here.
Yeah.
It was very romantic for me. I mean, this was a guy that I literally bought him teeth.
Okay.
He had the teeth that stacked on top of each other, and he got where he wasn't brushing his teeth, I guess, because he was younger, and he just let them full go. He had no.
Wow. Right.
And one day I was talking about buying this car, my favorite car, NSX. I finally got one. But I was talking about that, and he's like, I just want teeth. And it kicked me in the I made a goal to buy him teeth. So I bought him teeth, then terminated. But the point,
I smile for your job.
Next interview. Yeah.
well, he ended up starting his own business.
Okay.
He actually fed up all our sign work because we don't do signs.
Okay.
But so it worked out. How long did I prevent him from doing something that he was much happier at by not terminating?
1,000%. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the craziest thing is everybody I've ever let go end up being better for it.
Yep. So we have we call it a talent assessment, and it's like you can solve all the world's problems with a 2x2.
That's what I did actually.
Did you? So ours is basically left to right. It's 0 through 10 productivity, and then up and down it's 0 through 10 culture fit. And every quarter you go through it and you just mark like how well are they producing, productivity wise, and how well do they live and breathe your core values? Like, do you trust them to represent you and everything you stand for as a person and company? And so like the top quadrant, like 9 and 9 and 10 and 10 is like the A player. That's the gold standard.
Profit share equity.
That's like that. But then there's the 5.1 in each and above. We call those, they're still in the top quadrant. We call them climbers, right? The climber analogy. Those are the people that want to make the climb with you. They're competent and capable enough. If you climb halfway up a summit and you break your leg, you would trust them to get you back down. They're not going to leave you for the wolves, right? That kind of thing. We want we call those A potential players. They have the potential to grow and become A players. B players, we call them campers. They're really good for the culture, but really not killers, not highly productive. They don't really crush it in their role, but everybody loves them, right? You can have some campers, but you can't build an outstanding company on campers. So one or two. The
You
goal.
really read his notes. Cam.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's right.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. Like, this is awesome.
So, and then we have cranks, which are highly productive people, killers that are terrible for the culture as well as that.
Because they're crazy.
Crazy, just like everybody walks around on eggshells, around them. They don't take people under their wing and mentor them. They hold all the tribal knowledge, don't want to share it, right? They're like, oh, no. If I give them all that knowledge, they're gonna fire me. I gotta keep that. I don't want to make things better. Those are tough because they are producing so well, but you have to figure out, like, is this worth the liability, right? Are they gonna spoil the bunch? It's almost like, you buy a little thing of strawberries from the grocery store and you look in the refrigerator and like one has some mold on it and you kind of like leave it and then open up the fridge the next day and they all have mold on it. And they're like, shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
So you got to just kind of figure out like quarterly where they fall. The goal really is, once you plot them, I don't care where you plot them, be honest about it, be kind of brutally honest about it. But then create a 90-day coaching plan to help them grow in each one of those. I'm big on teaching leaders to share that with that team member, but first having them plot where they think they fall, and then saying, okay, well, let's go. Let's talk about why you think you're 8 here and a 7 goal. Yeah, there's no judgment or punishment. I just want to hear your perspective, and then you plot where you thought they were, and then you have a good conversation around it, and then you get their buy-in for their 90-day coaching plan. You develop it with them, because once you get their way in to something, you're going to get more buy-in from them if they have hand in saying, yeah, I think I could do better. Maybe we'll focus on, and this is the key to this all, is you want to focus on just one thing for culture and one thing for productivity. Don't overwhelm them with like all these things that they should and could do. Just pick one thing to move the needle. And if you do that quarter over quarter over quarter, you're going to see that progression, or you're going to see like, this person's not moving at all. Yeah. So then it becomes way easier to make that call, because that objective data takes all the feelings out of it. Right. We still have hearts, we still have a feeling, but the data is clear. It's like, all right, I did everything I could for them. What I tell everybody, it's always our fault.
We've provided you as much as we can.
Yeah.
And you haven't stepped up to.
And that's where the mirror comes in. We say it's always our fault.
Yeah.
Meaning we've done everything we possibly can. It's always our fault until it's their fault. Yeah. So once we've done everything we could, we're clear on the role, give them playbooks, give them KPIs, coach them, give them all the resources. If they're still failing quarter after quarter, then it's time to, it's almost like you're pruning the branches. You have this beautiful tree that you're trying to nurture and protect. You can't just let the dead branches drain resources from the vital ones, right? It's like, it's your job to prune that tree. Responsibility, really.
That's actually exactly how I terminated him.
Okay.
Just way simpler.
Okay.
So I actually got it from Brad as well, but it's basically 4 quadrants, except there are no points. It's one or the other.
Okay.
So there are only 4 options, and it's low performance, low culture, low performance, high culture.
That's about it. Yeah.
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 High performance, low culture, high performance, high culture.
Yep.
Okay. And so I just asked, I was like, on this, where do you put yourself? And he kind of like tried to do like the decimal. I was like, no, like you can only put yourself in one basket.
Yeah.
And he put himself in high performance, low culture. And what I was told on this, as far as using it as a tool, is that's a 30-day warning. Then,
Yeah.
essentially, 30 or 45 days. Like, we need a plan to get you out of the low culture.
That's right.
It's like, because nobody wants a dick on your team.
Yep.
Basically, is kind of
Your liability.
right. And so we did plan. Came back. He put himself right back into the same thing. I tried to remain on spot
Yeah.
because he chose it.
That's right. Yeah.
He knew he was a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's very interesting. And removing motion, I actually prefer yours because it's got a better game plan. But this was more just a simple tool to. The original thought was, if he thought that he was a high in the top right quadrant, then I can get his perspective, like you said, of why he feels
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
And I can be like, okay, no, you're just delusional,
Yep.
or let's bring you back to reality, or whatever it may be, to kind of coach up the person on it and not be necessarily emotional about it. Because I get emotional.
Sure.
So
We're invested. I mean, period. In our business and in our people. You know,
especially
it's a
when
good
you're
thing.
like 5-6 years with somebody and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
spend
can't.
life together.
We want it more for them than they want it for themselves. A lot of the times.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I've been shifting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I've been shifting into being a lot more critical on people on the firing faster than ever, super fast. Because I finally have like a lens shift where it's like, if I keep this person, I feel that our business has the opportunity to give abundance of opportunity. Me as an individual, I never had opportunity from people. I worked really hard for people, but I didn't feel appreciated
Okay.
ever, like me as a person. I know that I'm willing to give appreciation and abundance that is created from the business, which is the creator of opportunity,
Yep.
essentially. So the longer I keep that person here, the more I'm robbing some random person who just wants to be seen, heard, and appreciated, and wants the opportunity to receive the money or the income or life-changing situation. I've already had it happen where somebody came to me and said, I had no money when I started with you, no savings. I've got $50K in the bank.
Okay.
So that's like fantastic.
Yep.
Right. And he's only like 2 years old. No. Right. But I'm like, how do I find more of that guy?
Yeah.
So I'm like, more like, help me like sift through this. If I'm not good at hiring, at the very least, do my reps to find those people faster.
Yeah. I mean, you got to figure out, like, reverse engineer, like, why is that guy working so well? What are the characteristics?
Yeah.
What are his values? What are the circles?
Yeah. The biggest thing was we had clear accountability of, we put pressure. I think a lot of people in our industry think that the install position takes longer to train than it does. Because I've heard people say, oh, it takes 2 years to learn this role. And I'm like, dude, you're not that special.
Yeah.
Does it take 2 years to be an expert?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to be dangerous and actually get an ROI on installer, like 3 months, 4 months, maybe, like dangerous, like really dangerous. But we started doing something where it's like week 1, Friday, there's a test. This is what's on the test. This is the only thing I care about. Is that test. And then my only job is to give you all the resources to succeed.
Sure.
That test.
Yep.
Now, will they shadow a guy for an hour or two? Sure. Will they ask questions 1 hour before the end of the day? Yes, it's required to observe what they felt was their friction point on that day, and then I would coach them up. But I didn't spend the whole day with them.
Right. Give him the end goal.
Just
The
the last hour.
Yep.
And then AJ essentially would go home and take film from the shop that was like scrap,
Yeah.
dead ends, whatever it may be from different jobs. And he would go work on his own car.
Wow.
And then we put minimum and maximum times for the level that they were at.
Okay.
So they're not a commission-based installer until level 3. So there's a minimum time in order to like make sure you have enough training to become level 3, but also there's a maximum time in level 2 where if you have not become a level 3, you're terminated.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So week 1, you can't achieve the results, possible termination.
Yeah.
If they're high coachable, then and they're just slow learners,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe.
Sure.
But there's pressure. Like my job's on the line.
Sure.
And that pressure is the same as like you and I when we started a business. Like I gotta make money for my family and pay my bills. But a lot of people just say, hey, come watch me do this. Look how good I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why it takes so long to
Yeah,
train
right,
an installer.
right.
Is because you're actually the one robbing all the opportunity, holding the squeegee.
I believe it. Yep.
So, yeah, the terminating fast, all that stuff. Just
If you leave installers to learn at their own speed and trial and error alongside your other installers takes a long time. I mean, like when I first got started, and I mean, mostly was self-taught doing vehicle racks on YouTube and like a little bit of training for somebody, but the trial and error came quickly because I'm the only one doing it. But if you're leaving somebody without any specific training and they're just kind of being a helper and picking it up a little bit here and there, I think it takes 6 to 12 months to train, but you can shorten that down if you just give them some specific things to work on separately, not just shadowing and following, job shadowing, right?
Yeah.
The guys that are in it, if you just take the time to plan out a guideline of, okay, you're going to wrap a hood, now you're going to wrap doors, let's test your cuts and your corners and your tucks, and now let's put it all together in an actual training program.
it's 20. I train cuts first. Everybody trains cuts loud. That's what I hate cutting. So I would literally just say, okay, it would be so bad. Like my training process at the beginning was horrible, but it was just for my advantage.
Right. Right.
Because I was the admin role.
Yeah.
And then at one point I was still kind of installer. So what I would do is like, hey, you're going to measure this whole thing out for me and you're going to put it in place and then you're going to tell me when it's in place. And then it would take me like finish work is the timing part, but I would wrap the whole side of the vehicle, but I wouldn't trim anything. And then I'd walk away and go back to selling and and then they would trim it out for me.
That's exactly how I trained.
And so it's because I didn't want to do it.
Right.
but you can use it to your advantage, but it was still very like unorganized. There
A
was
little flunky. Yeah.
no goals. Like
Yeah.
I didn't get any actual experience with installing, but it was like halfway there. I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like everything you do, you think about it like this, you're either going to build a culture of accountability or mediocrity. And it's like from the gates, you're setting the standard. So I believe in giving people the opportunity to rise to the standard by putting a little bit of pressure on them. Like it's their choice to do it.
I was actually just about to ask that. Is it better to tiptoe into training somebody where it's like, okay, week 1 we're gonna be a little soft and next week's gonna be a little harder, or is it just like send it?
I think it's up to you. But I do think there should be clear kind of milestones for them. Like they should know what that 90 days looks like. Shouldn't be just kind of like on the whim on a fly. Now, if they're knocking it out and they're progressing faster, that's actually probably a good thing because success like breeds more motivation. Usually it's not the other way around. Like motivation doesn't come first. It's like success comes first, then the motivation follows once they get a couple of small wins. You know what I mean?
You get the confidence from doing it.
That's right.
Motivated to do it some more.
Yeah. So if you can get them quick wins early, I don't care what position it is. It could be sales, it could be wrapping, it could be anything. That's just, human psychology, right?
So I find a quick win for the position, but let him head on the week 1 to feel really good and be rewarded for it too without being like smoke.
Yeah. I mean, that goes for clients. Too. It's like, marketing companies or CRM companies. It's like give your client a quick win to keep them highly engaged, right? Not letting them not hear from you for like 7 days. It might not play in the rap industry as much, but it's just human psychology.
So in my speech today, there's a thing I talked about of imperfect action is better than perfect
Inaction.
What did I say? Imperfect action is better than perfect
Inaction.
inaction. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
perfect inaction. Basically, like moving and doing something is better than planning it all out and not really executing.
Yep.
How would you, or first, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you balance planning versus executing for anything then when you're coaching businesses in what they're doing?
So I think when you're looking at team members, like if we're looking at even if we want A players, we have to be the kind of leaders that A players would want to work for, right? Like somebody that you yourself would want to work for. And when it comes to kind of that, you want to give them an idea of where you're headed as a company, right? It doesn't have to be like detailed plans, but a vision that excites them, inspires them, right? So that kind of planning is good. When I'm working with clients, business owners, we want to set that first. We do want to set like, a 5-year, we call it a pinnacle, or you might have heard of the BHAG. So creating like the big vision, the big why, what are we chasing? What's going to be worth the climb? Because if we're going to grow and scale a business and we're going to equate it to climbing a mountain, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, it better be worth it, right? It better be profitable. It better we still better enjoy it. So you want to get clear on that kind of stuff, right? We don't have to be crystal clear on exactly like how we're getting there. But we do want to set like 1, 3, and 5-year goals. And we want to break that 1-year goal down into 90-day, we call them rocks, right? Just like how would you eat an elephant? It's one little bite at a time. So those 90-day rocks are if we execute those and if we identify the key things, the 3 to 5 things that we have to do for the business to move it forward toward that big 5-year goal, that builds kind of the cadence or rhythm of accountability into it. So I think it is important to get clear on that. Now, what stage of business do we have to get clear on that? That's the question, right? Because sometimes it is just hustle to the 500,000 or 700,000 or 800,000, right? Just like by any means necessary, and then come up for air. Or you can measure and then, go at it strategically, right? I think they both work, but I think eventually you're going to have to do the planning. So whenever you're going to have to do it. So when do you want to do it, right? Like when is it going to be most advantageous for you?
Yeah. And there has to be a balance,
Right.
Like you have to be able to execute.
Don't get paralyzed. I think you're saying like, don't be paralyzed by it. So you don't do anything. And I agree with that 100%. Ideally you do both. You plan and you execute though. I think the way you execute it is to have a vision big enough that excites you, and then to break down what does that look like in revenue and profit.
Yeah.
Break it down to 3 years, break it down to 1 year. What does that look like? And then break that down quarterly. Because if we can execute quarterly and just follow that quarterly plan.
Yep. I think that's what a lot of people have a hard time too, is that they don't know how to plan or what to plan.
Yep.
Or what the plan should look like. And so they get scared of the plan. So they don't act because they don't know how to do the plan part. And so they don't do.
Or they don't even know what's possible. Like, our big job with business owners is to get them to dream or think bigger. Like, and you can only do that by zooming out, by sitting in a room and not being in the day-to-day in the weeds and sitting there. You don't have to do it with a coach. I mean, you can do it by yourself, but it does take you getting out of the business for a day or 2 days and thinking about like, where am I aiming? Like, let's figure out where I'm aiming first, right? And then create the plan to get there, right?
Yeah. Also, it's sometimes very interesting. I learned this a lot with training for the 250 miler, was that like the plan's actually pretty boring.
Yeah.
And sometimes you kind of question the plan. Like there would be times you'll be like, this is not enough.
Right.
This is not enough.
Yep.
This like there's no way this isn't enough. And then I go in like 1 week, I push a little harder, and then my muscles are like, yo,
Yeah.
we're at capacity here. Like you're beating us up pretty bad, right? And that could be your finances, that could be your business, it could be mental fatigue, it could be the stress on your family for pushing too hard. It can be whatever it is. The plan itself, it seemed like in business, is incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And like following the process or like believing in it.
Because you're right. I think it is when you do it right and you identify the actual things that will move the business and move the needle, it doesn't seem like enough because it's only 3 to 5 things, and we're wired to hustle. We're like, no,
Dopamine.
that can't be. Yeah, that can't be it. Because like we like to be busy. Like the busier we feel, the more productive we feel, the more successful we're going to be. It's actually the opposite. It's like the less we do, and the more we focus on the big important things.
Yeah.
That's what's going to move the needle. But it is, if you heard of Parkinson's law, so like basically it states that when you're trying to achieve a goal, no matter what amount of time you choose, you're going to finish it right on time. So whether you choose a year, 3 years, 5 years, you're starting to see a lot of this thinking come out, and like 10x is greater than 2x, and
Yeah.
the science of scaling. It's like, how do we condense that big goal down and really kind of stretch ourselves on every quarter?
Yeah.
So the quarter, it should be like those big rocks, we call them. They should be ambitious. They should take 90 days to complete. It should be just like little checklists and tasks.
No, I believe it 100% because like the first 100 I ran, I only had 3.5, 4 months of training,
Okay. Yeah.
but it was the consecutiveness
Yeah.
of doing it
Yeah.
without missing
Oh man.
and everything. The 250 was, yeah, it was after I gotten a different degree of fitness, but like there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
And it was still only a 4.5 month block
Yeah.
that I massively just hunkered down, focused, no missed days, nothing.
Yeah.
And then game day comes, and it was hard, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is impossible.
Right.
So the consecutive action of those tasks are more important too.
Yeah.
The right task and then the consecutiveness of it. I think that's actually the hardest part. That's why I love Trevor. Like I've never met a more consecutive person.
More consistent.
Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Wasn't it Elon Musk that was talking about like people's goals and for their business and for his businesses? Like he I think he talked about it in an interview or something. But how do I take my 10-year goal and do it in 6 months or whatever the time frame was? But
Right.
like if the goal is this long, how do I do the same thing in half the time?
Yeah.
Or in 10% of the time?
Yeah.
And whatever he does, he freaking crushes it.
It's very similar to 10x is greater than 2x. It's like, if you want to 2x your business, you can do it probably, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different ways. But now if you say, I want to 10x my business, it only gives you like maybe 1 or 2 ways, but it forces you to change how you're going to do it, because you can't do it the way you're doing it now. Because it just means, well, you only have 80 hours a week if you want to kill yourself. So like you can't do that. And then you can't tell your team members, I want you to work twice as much and twice as hard, because that's not going to be inspiring for them, for you to scale your business. So it forces you to kind of think differently. So when we think about that 5-year big, hairy, audacious goal, the pinnacle, like how do we dream so big that we have to change the way we're going to approach it? And then going back to like the consistency thing, when we do these quarterly rocks, like usually we're doing these with like leadership teams, and they have a weekly tactical meeting. And the big goal of that whole process is whoever owns these rocks every week, they have to say, here's what I did last week, here's what I'm doing this week, and here's where I'm stuck. So now they can't go 60 days without touching it. And like to your video procrastination point,
Deadline.
when you're held accountable to it, and it's frequently reviewed where you can't run from it, things happen in a positive way,
Yeah.
because now you have to show up to this meeting either empty-handed or, hey, proud of what you've done. And that's how you get 6 months of work done in 90 days. It's that a rhythm and accountability cadence that you're like building right into the system. That's the magic of it all. So if you have 3 people on a team, that's fine. Get somebody to hold you accountable to what you said you're going to do. You don't have to have a coach. You can have a friend, write them down every week, check in on them, and you'll get more and more and more done faster doing it that way.
Now that I'm out of the day-to-day production stuff, install everything, design, I don't have those same deadlines.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to have Chris or somebody give me some accountable deadlines.
Yeah.
To force my deadline mode.
My deadline mode. Yeah. I love that. But we all need it. Until you don't, I guess. Eventually you'll be, at a point where you might not need it.
Yeah.
Actually, we believe that eventually as the visionary, as you build your leadership team, the goal should be you don't have rocks. You know, you're in charge of culture.
Right.
You're in charge of partnerships. You're in charge of all the big picture things. But rocks, like, you're not going to be tied down. So as a visionary, you know, depending on the industry and business, you know, you're not going to have many rocks at a very minimum. Like, you might have one or two, but your operations people are going to have more of the rocks, the glue that hold it together, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, we like to always ask, like, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to a young hustler / struggling entrepreneur?
One piece of advice.
Just say framework would be first year to 3 years pushing. Maybe they don't have a lot of entrepreneurial people in their space.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out. Obviously, there's content out there, but whatever it is not really working very good for them. What's a good piece of advice that you'd give a person like that?
You know, number one, I would say document the process and everything that you do, just from like a playbook or SOP standpoint, because you're going to need it eventually. And if you're doing it today, just film it, document it, record it, get that out of the way. But from like a business growth standpoint, is that kind of more?
Yeah, like trying to figure out how to get out of the solo hustle mindset where they're still kind of paycheck to paycheck, really.
Yeah.
Like, they're not really even entering into the business arena yet. Like, maybe they just didn't want to work for anybody anymore and they want to start this business, but then they got trapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a lot harder. They find out there's a lot more components.
Yeah.
Typically, they realize. So just kind of, there's a lot of people in our industry. It's an easy industry to get into.
Low
There's
very entry.
great people in it, but you know, they're maybe in their garage, installing, and they're talented, but they're trying to just figure out like these next steps. And I think, you know, doing what you sell, documentation is a really big thing, especially with AI.
Yeah. So easy.
Just talk to the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it'll do it for you.
Right.
But yeah, we always just ask for a good piece of advice. Just kind of, everybody has a different angle of what they feel it is.
Yeah, I think my angle is self-awareness as a business owner and leader. Like, understand how you're wired, what your strengths are. That gives you a good idea of the things you should be doing. Make a list of like the things that only you could do and do well, and then try to delegate like the bottom piece of it all, like the admin stuff. If you can just offload that, a lot of people underestimate the energy and mental bandwidth it takes to juggle or wear 4 hats.
Or if you down.
If you can remove a hat and delegate it to the right person, that'll free up so much bandwidth and energy for you to focus on like your highest and best use and the talents and gifts that you have. But self-awareness is like number one. I don't care if you're an employee or if you own the company. I think that works for everybody, because once you understand kind of how you're wired and what you do really well, you kind of understand what to say no to as well, or what to cut off, what to delegate.
I really think you only have so much brain power a day.
Absolutely.
They talk about like decision fatigue, like you get tired of making decisions. I think your brain gets exhausted switching from this task to this task to back to this task, and it's mentally.
I jokingly tell people to grab 5 different hats, and every time you change modes, change your hat.
Yeah,
To physically,
it's just how silly it is. Yep.
like,
And how frequent.
it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not efficient.
No.
Not at all. So awesome. This was helpful.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, of course.
See ya.